Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to St Andrew's Church, Chedworth. Now, earlier on this week, we had what some people have been calling Freedom Day. And I'm sure there's many of us who've been thinking, oh yeah, great, no more masks, no more hand sanitizer, no more social distancing. But we all know that COVID hasn't gone away. So I think it's really important that we take a little time to think what freedom is really all about. The idea of freedom actually is not a particularly old idea. It very much came up in the 18th century Enlightenment, at the time when people began to see the rise of modern science and question the authority of the church. And at that time, there were various thinkers really thinking about personal autonomy and liberty. One particular writer, John Stuart Mill, wrote a very influential book called On Liberty, addressing this very issue. And the idea of personal freedom was cemented even more in the 19th century with the development of modern psychology and the idea of the personal self and the person with a will to act. But if we look at the idea of freedom, we'll soon realise there are many flaws in it. But if we look at it, we'll realise that freedom isn't always what it's cracked up to be. Freedom can be illusory. It's actually not there at all. We all have obligations to different people, our places of work, our families, our friends. None of us can really act exactly as we would wish. And actually, freedom is quite beguiling sometimes. It actually turns out not what we think it's going to be. So freedom isn't necessarily the best thing. But let's think a little bit about what the Bible says about freedom. Some words from St Paul to the Galatian Christians. And Paul knew a thing or two about freedom. He spent a long time of his life in prison. And Paul says here in Galatians 5, "For you were called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for sin, but through love serve one another. For the whole law is summed up in one word. You shall love your neighbour as yourself." Anyone who knows that God is there and has a belief in God has a commitment to God. And straight away, that means that we do not have the freedom that modern life assumes that we might have. And we all have an obligation to be kind to one another and to love one another as far as the ongoing COVID situation is concerned. So it's really important that we are kind to one another by respecting those who still wish to maintain social distancing, by respecting those who still wish to wear masks in the face of what is still a threat to our public health. And of course, it's really important that we welcome one another in our public places, and particularly in our parish churches, with that in mind. We look forward to welcoming you to our churches, hopefully over the next few weeks. I just wanted to let you know about the situation with regard to guidance now that the lockdown restrictions have ended. So many of you will be pleased to know that we'll be able to sing again in church, and that will be a source of joy to many of you. We will be able to have refreshments after the services, although it's important that we take reasonable precautions. We won't need to social distance, although, as I've said, respect people who may want to keep their distance. We don't need to wear masks in church. There is not a legal requirement to do so. We fully expect that many people will feel more comfortable wearing masks in church, and that's okay. And finally, as far as Holy Communion is concerned, we are going to continue to receive communion in one kind only, just the bread, because we don't believe that the common cup is safe to share still at the moment. And the Church of England guidelines allow us to continue to distribute as bread alone. We will be reconsidering that in a month or so's time. But thank you very much for your patience and understanding. Well, we hope we'll see you at one of our events over the summer. There's a lot going on. We've got a climate action service here in August, on August the 15th. Also on that same day, there will be an animal service for the benefit over at Yanworth. So there's plenty going on. And please do join us if you can. And remember, think about what Freedom Day is really all about. We can find true freedom in knowing God and in serving him.